Alright, what's going on, you guys? Damn, it's been a long time since I've done a video. So I didn't mean to take the entire month of January off. It's just kind of, I did feel like I needed to refocus and replan a little bit because my goal is to just be more consistent in 2019. I think all of last year I did maybe 25 videos, which is fucking pathetic, but you know, that's kind of where I want to go. I want to set everything up to where I could keep putting out videos at least once a week. That's the goal. At a minimum, I want to do a once a week thing like I was doing in the past. So, and like I said, I've set up schedules so I can at least know where I want to go next, what I want to talk about next, because there's been so many times where I've come in here and it's like, what are we going to talk about today? Fuck it, I'm not doing a video. I don't want to be back on that again, so that's kind of why I took this time off, so I could refocus everything and get to where I want to go with it and just stay more consistent. So coming up, I'm going to start running through the vinyl collection. I'm probably going to redo the CD collection as well. I mean, because it's been so long since I've done that, and you know, I mean, the collection's grown substantially since I started it. So you know, I felt like I just want to redo it because they all suck anyway. But in the meantime, I've got a bunch of updates to do on top of all the ones that will come as the year is going on. And today I want to start a new series. So, you know, we're not necessarily talking about classic metal. I mean, you could definitely put that label on it, but it's really just, you know, older stuff that's been around, that's had time to be assessed and evaluated and all that kind of thing. And, you know, I mean, I don't really want to put any kind of limitation on it other than maybe it has to be at least 10 years old. That's just where I'm thinking about it right now, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know where you'd fall into a classic. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a classic. It could be some random, obscure shit that came out in, fuck, you know, like 91 or something new that I just kind of stumbled across. So, I mean, if it's old, I kind of want to separate that from my collection updates where I'm getting new stuff or newer stuff. So, I mean, if it's like, you know, something that came out in 2014, I'm not going to put it in this particular video series. So, I'm going to try to quit rambling, but I mean, this is kind of the start of this, so all the albums we're going to talk about today, it's all stuff we know, but some of this I've been wanting to talk about for a long time, and some of it I just got around to picking up, so yeah, so that's what this whole series is going to be about, and I do have another one coming up here in another couple of weeks. We'll talk about that when that comes, and yeah, we'll go ahead and get started, kind of. Before we start getting into the albums, good friend of mine, Pat, from Groundzero, Salem, sent me something really fucking cool, and I had to show this off, and I had to talk about this first. So he sent me a goddamn turntable, and it's really fucking nice, way better than the one I have currently, and I'm fucking blown away by his generosity. He cut me a huge deal on it. He just said, oh, you know, I want you to have it, and I was beyond fucking grateful for that, because I really needed one, and he definitely hooked me up. So I don't even know, I'm sure I've annoyed him to no end, texted him, like, dude, I really appreciate it, you know, and it's just, I'm just blown away by how nice he is, and what a good dude he is. So I'm going to leave a link in the description, so please go subscribe to him if you haven't already, because there's not nearly enough people talking about him, and the amazing fucking collection that he has, and he's just such a nice dude, and he really knows his shit when he's talking about music. And I also want to send a shout out to Eli, who I've talked about numerous times. God damn it. Dark Hymns from the Cold North. I don't know why I always want to say Cold Hymns from the Dark North, but that's whatever. He actually was the one who set up this whole transaction to happen, and I really appreciate both of those dudes who've been really good to me, been super good friends, and I just really, really appreciate the both of them. So definitely go subscribe to them if you haven't, especially Eli, man, because goddamn, he doesn't have near the subscribers he has, and he has an amazing channel. He's always showing really cool shit. I mean, Pat is as well. You make the argument that they either one don't have as good as subscribers as they should, or as many as they should, and goddamn, they're both way better at doing this shit than I am. So if you're watching my fucking channel, you should fucking definitely be watching theirs, because they are absolutely amazing people, and amazing dudes, and great friends, and they know their fucking shit when they're talking about music. Speaking of music, let's talk about some music. So we're listening to Megalith Grave, which I talked about not that long ago in an update. It's the compilation Reminiscence and Ancient Torments. So it's mainly just like ambient noise, shit like that. Band's it's a one-man project out of, the Philly area, I want to say. I might be totally wrong about that. I mean, fuck, I just talked about it. You'd think I'd remember. bet if this video goes long enough, you'll definitely hear the black metal parts come in. So it's black metal with like some black ambient noise. It's really good shit. Just a compilation though. Alright, so the first thing we're going to talk about, and like I said, these are all very well known albums, so, you know, but yeah, I've kind of gotten to the point where I just want to talk about older shit because for some reason I find it more fun than newer shit. I guess is where it's been out so long. Maybe I haven't had a chance to talk about it, or maybe I'm just getting around to picking it up, so it's kind of like, it's been out there for so long, it's finally you get a chance to talk about it. That's kind of where I'm going with this, so I don't know, that's kind of why I wanted to separate everything. So the first one we have is Morta Skuld. Dying Remains, their debut full-length from 1993, I do believe. Originally came out on Death Records, which was a subsidiary of Peaceville, I believe we all know. Awesome death metal out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And you can definitely hear a lot of influence like from early Obituary. Maybe throw in some like Amorphis Descends as well. There's not really a lot of originality on this. I mean, it still crushes and everything. I fucking love this album. Yeah, it's almost one of those things that it relies too much on its source material, but not in a bad way. I mean, I love that Dave Greger goes for that fucking John Tardy style vocal, which is awesome. It's one of my favorites in death metal for sure. And speaking of favorites, absolutely love this cover. I mean, I don't want to say it's super iconic, but it's always one that's always caught my eye. You know, even up until I got this album and I was actually looking at it, I still love this fucking cover. Just amazing fucking work. Yeah, just a classic of the genre, I think. And I really miss this type of artwork, man. There's just not a lot of this anymore. I love the like the early 90s, late 80s fucking death metal covers. It's just, they knew what they were fucking doing for sure. That's not to say that newer shit isn't as good, but goddamn, look at this shit. But yeah, man, just awesome, an awesome debut. So if you're into like early Obituary, if you haven't for some reason heard this one, that's definitely one you should check out. Super Obituary worship, but I mean, they kind of put their own spin to it. It's just a really good album, really solid, really crushing album. Love it. Morta Skuld, get it. And this one is I've been talking to a few people about, and when you're talking about Swedish death metal, I mean, you always hear about their big four, like, you know, Unleashed, Grave, Dismember, Entombed, shit like that. This one I think blows them all out of the water. That's just my opinion. You can disagree if you want, but I mean, it's one of the best Swedish death metal albums ever put out, if not one of the best death metal albums put out, period. This is Desolator. Fucking Into Eternity. Came out on Metal Blade back in 93. Also another debut. Just, it's definitely a little underappreciated, I think, because, I mean, there's a lot of shit out there that's kind of fallen into the Swedish death category, but they're not as appreciated or as talked about, like I was saying about the big four, so I don't know why that is. Maybe it's because, like, maybe it's because this one came out, like, a little bit later when all those other bands were already a little bit more established, but still, that it shouldn't be that way, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's not that Desolator isn't talked about, but they're just not talked about on that level. Or maybe I'm just fucking missing something. I don't know, but that's just the way I feel about it. But the nice thing about this, it's another thing that makes it really cool, is even though they recorded at Sunlight, even though they recorded at Sunlight Studios, like the majority of those Swedish bands did, this doesn't have that. It doesn't have that production value like it does on those other albums. I mean, you can definitely hear it in the riffs, the Swedish style riffs, but it's not in that kind of production vein. And I really appreciate that. And it just gives it a little bit more of something different, something unique. So it comes on a blue shell, which is fucking beautiful. And I do believe this was limited to 500. At least this version of the tape. This is from Flogger Records. Yes. Limited to 500 copies, all on blue. So if you have one of these, it's 1 of 500, I guess. Yeah, man, what I love about this, like, the buzzsaw sound isn't there, which isn't a bad thing. It's not a good thing, but it's not a bad thing. The buzzsaw thing, it's just kind of been done. But the tone they get is fucking great. It's like a more focused, like, something you hear like a more focused thrash sound. Like, it's not as raw and chaotic, but it's a little bit more focused, but it's got that tenacity to it, you know what I mean? Like I said, the riff style is still there, but it just gives it a different feel to it where it doesn't have that same type of production. And, yeah, man, I have absolutely no problem whatsoever putting this up there with some of the greatest Swedish bands and albums of all time, and definitely I would consider it one of the best death metal albums of all time. It's one of my favorites for sure. So, Desolator, Into Eternity. You can tell I haven't done this in a while, man. My fucking rhythm is off, and I'm fucking fumbling through this. Another all-time classic is what we're talking about today. And I don't know why I don't own more from this band. It's fucking strange. This is Razor, Violent Restitution. Fucking awesome album. Anything Razor does is fucking great. Their 1988 release, I believe. I believe this is their 5th full length. Yeah, I mean, they'd already been way established for a while when this one came out. And yet another fantastic album, man. I mean, they'd never do anything wrong. I've never heard a bad Razor album. I mean, just sensational riffs, great guitar tone. The drums sound excellent. Lots of low end from the bass, and it's clearly audible. Sheepdog's vocals have that slight echo to it, which was common at the time, but I absolutely love that, especially with like 80s albums and early 90s albums. Put a little bit of that echo on it. It kind of gives it that live album feel. That's just fucking awesome. I love shit like that. I mean, it's just one of those amazing thrash albums that just, and it still pays homage to like the punk origins, like from where thrash originally developed. I mean, not so much that it developed exclusively from that, but I mean, you know what I'm saying. And I mean, I don't know, man. You can just hear it in the speed and some of the riffs. It's got that just punk vibe to it. Just wonderful production. Everything's crisp and clear, but still, retains that raw, live quality sound. So this is the 2015 Relapse reissue, and it's got a few bonus tracks from a live show, as you can see there. And obviously, it comes on this slipcase. So pull that out. There's the album, and I want to say there was an interview or something in here. Maybe there wasn't. Yeah, I guess there wasn't. Maybe I'm thinking of something else that I've been looking at recently. But anyway, I mean, just your lyrics and all that kind of stuff. And probably my favorite part on here says, warning, the musical and lyrical content of this album is not recommended for those with a weak heart. Damn fucking right. But yeah, I mean, I believe we're all familiar with Razor at this point. Just fantastic thrash. Some of my favorite thrash ever made. It's just a great fucking album, great fucking band. They know what they're fucking doing for sure. So there's that, man. Absolutely fucking relentless album. And I don't know why I don't own more Razor. It's just one of those things where I've listened to Razor for years and then got to looking at it. It's like, why don't I own anything from them? I don't know. It's fucking weird. This one, I've seen a lot of people posting this on Instagram or showing it in... Did I see somebody showing it in videos? I don't know, man. I've seen people posting this a lot lately, and it's one that I finally picked up. And it was like kind of weird. I kind of wasn't sure if I was going to talk about this one right now just for that reason, but I was like, nah, fuck it. Yeah, it's just another classic Swedish death metal album. Fucking God Macabre, The Winterlong. Another one from 1993, and another debut, full length. Just another Swedish death masterpiece, man. This is the 2014 Relapse reissue, I think. I should have looked at it before I started this. And another one I think is, like Desolator, is just a bit underappreciated, man. I mean, I understand the argument for, Grave, Dismember, Unleashed, Entombed, and all that, but I mean, this album is just as good as anything that any of those other bands have put out. Just how I feel about it. I mean, absolutely exceptional musicianship. Pear's vocals are fucking powerful as fuck. Just the super guttural, but not gurgly guttural. It's just got a lot of low end in his voice, and it's fucking amazing. Yeah, I mean, just it's still got that classic Sunlight sound. Maybe a little bit heavier than its contemporaries. I mean, it's just definitely got a lot of low end to it. But, obviously a well-known album. Just think it should be mentioned up there with more of the, some of the best, because this is one of the best. And like I said with Desolator, I guess you could say the style had already been established. But at the same time, it really shouldn't matter, man. It should come down to what the music is actually putting across. Now, I think this is another just flat-out fucking amazing album. And like I said, I didn't really want to talk about it just because I've seen a lot of people posting it all of a sudden. And it was right around the time I finally picked it up, and it was like, really? But it's whatever. So God Macabre, The Winterlong. I mean, it's a great fucking record. So if you haven't heard this, go check it out. If you're into Swedish death at all, this one should be up there with all the other ones. That's how I feel about it. Holy shit, we still got some more shit to go from Sweden. But we're going to go to Finland for a little bit. And this one, I don't know why it's always so hard for me to talk about stuff that's like a little bit more on the progressive side, or it's got, kind of a, it's like it's got a different vibe than some of the more established shit of its, contemporaries. But I mean, it's just, I don't know, I had to talk about it because it's like, yeah, I've not talked about this band before. It's weird. Amorphis. The Karelian Isthmus. Oh, man, just a brilliant fucking album from 92. I think Relapse put this one out as well. And I can't remember when this was reissued. 2003, I guess. I meant to make a note of it, but I fucking didn't. Again, another debut full-length. And I've always noticed in their earlier work, like with this and, Elegy. Elegy is more of like a transition. God damn it. Yeah, Tales from the Thousand Lakes. You could tell with Amorphis that they were going to eventually go in a different direction. And maybe it's just kind of looking back on it and, you know, looking back from the current era and seeing where all they came from. But it's like you can kind of see that you could tell they weren't going to be doing the straight up caveman style riffs, the straight up pummeling shit, which there is some of that on here, but I mean, you could tell they were meant for something else, and you can hear the progression in it. You hear the progressive sound in this, and you could tell where they were going to eventually go in the future. So I don't know, I've always kind of found that interesting, how you can kind of spot that they were kind of meant for something else. But I mean, obviously the death metal and the doom metal's there, but they incorporate so much melody. I mean, you could just tell they were eventually going to explore other sounds, which they have to great success, I might add. So I mean, I've always enjoyed their progressive stuff. There's not a lot of Amorphis stuff I straight up just hate, but I would probably say I prefer this one, and this one is most likely my favorite, even over Tales, just because it's probably the first one I heard, and I don't know, it's just got something to it. Like The Gathering, that's the first song I ever heard from Amorphis, and it's always struck me for some reason. So I don't know, man, it's just it's probably why this one's my favorite. It's just got that special place for me. Just, it's one of those things that this one captured me first, so I mean, that's probably why it's my favorite. So on this one, it's actually got the Privilege of Evil EP made onto it. And I always thought that was kind of cool that, you know, they recorded that first, but it was released after this album. The year later, I think. 93 is when that came out. So that's, I mean, again, like I've talked about before, if you're going to get, you know, later pressings, later copies, later releases, it's kind of nice that when they add some extra shit in there for you. So, I mean, if you can't have the original pressing, you know, at least give you some bonus shit. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it on that. We all know Amorphis, and it's one of the best of the genre in terms of cover art, and the logo is just fucking great. That just pops out at you so well. I fucking love that. And again, with Relapse, I mean, they don't really give you a lot of shit, just lyrics, and that's about it. So there she be. And we're still on only the second track of this fucking album, so you might not hear any black metal by the time this is over. But yeah, man, what else can I say, man? Everyone knows Amorphis. Great fucking band, great fucking album. Their debut, you could tell where they were going to progress to in the future, but it's a great fucking album. So there you go. Alright, we're going to go back to Sweden for just a moment. And another one that's... this one isn't as underappreciated as the other ones. I think everyone is very, very familiar with this one. One of the very first Swedish death metal albums to ever come out. One of the first to kind of establish that style. And in that regard, you know, you definitely have to put this up there with one of the best. Honestly, yeah, I can probably do that. So we have Carnage, Dark Recollections. Unfortunately, I'm just now picking this up, and this has been on my want list for a very, very long time. And, you know, just either money, finances, or, you know, just getting distracted by other shit kept me from picking this one up. So, it's very, very, very nice to have this one finally crossed off the list. Originally put out on, what was it, Necrosis Records? It's not even going to say on here because I don't have the original. But this is the, oh shit, this is the Earache reissue. So yeah, I mean, like I said, obviously one of the pioneers of Swedish Death. Believe, in fact, they're only the third death metal band ever to record at Sunlight Studios. The first two being Tiamat and Entombed. But I think we all know that by now. And but yeah, you can certainly hear that classic production on this. So it's not as off-putting. It is kind of looking back on it. But, you know, you kind of, when you're listening to it and you think about it at the time, like, this is one of the few albums that even sounded remotely like this. And it makes it a little bit more intriguing and more, you know, just fun to check it out and just listen to it and kind of get the feel of the, I mean, just the history they were making at the time. So, I mean, of course, this is basically Dismember without Michael Amott, so, I mean, not a vast amount of difference between this and, you know, like an Ever-Flowing Stream, which Dismember put that out the very next year. So yeah, I mean, there's not a lot going on there. I mean, it would have been cool had, you know, Michael not left to join Carcass to see what they could have come up with under this entity of Carnage. So maybe they could have taken that to a different direction and still had Dismember going. That would have been really cool to check out and see what the hell they could have done with that. But unfortunately, this is the only full length they ever put out. There's some demos and stuff out there, and I think a lot of that too is songs that ended up on Dismember records. So yeah, but really cool to have like an official piece of history that I've been missing from the collection. Because I mean, if you're into Swedish Death or if you're going to collect that stuff, this one's a must-have just because it's one of the originals. So glad to have that one knocked out finally. Alright, for our last one, we're going to go back to Finland, and I have a really, it's not really super interesting, but I have a story about this album. So I'll go ahead and show it. One of the greatest, most known bands, one of the best albums, I think, to come out from Finland and from this band in general. And I might be a little biased, but I'll explain in a minute. This is Impaled Nazarene with, God fucking help me, Toll Kornt Nors. You know this fucking album. I fucking can't pronounce this shit to save my life. So obviously one of the more iconic fucking album covers ever made, I think. And again, I will explain. So, interesting story about this. The first time I ever heard about this album, I was 10th or 11th grade, something like that. I was in high school. And we were in the library doing, you know, some kind of computer class or something on the computer. And I was fucking off, not paying attention, and I was looking up bands on, you know, when I shouldn't have. But I was looking up different bands, and I found some website where you could actually stream some of their music, and it was just kind of every band you could think of was on there. And I found Impaled Nazarene. I remember hearing about them, but I'd never heard their shit. And I clicked on it, and this was what pulled up. And I was like, holy shit, and it kind of freaked me out, and I was like, what the fuck, you know. And I clicked on it. They had like little samplers. It wasn't like the whole song. And I'm sitting there playing it, and I had headphones, and, you know, headphones on, you know, when I'm sitting there, so I'm not, you know, fucking terrifying the class. And I'm sitting there listening to, I'd never heard anything like this before, and it wasn't, you know, chaotic enough with the dark fucking heavy, you know, Beharit, you know, Archcode, maybe a little bit of blasphemy style fucking guitar playing, just the music in general, the drumming and all that kind of shit. But then you have the weird samples in here with like people crying, and I think there's just the weird noises that you hear. There's all the backwards shit. I mean, this was fucking chaotic. I'm sitting there listening. This is like, what the fuck is this? I'd never heard a fucking thing like this. So that was my introduction to Impaled Nazarene, and it's the first album I ever heard from them. So I may be saying this is iconic for not the right reasons. It's iconic to me just because it was, I remembered this from that day, and I remembered I always needed to pick it up. And again, it's just, I'm finally getting around to it because I'm distracted all the fucking time with other shit. So, yeah. Just a amazing album. I may be putting it up there a little bit more than what it should be, but I think it's one of their best ones. I mean, they've got all kinds of good shit, but this one was the one that first introduced me to the band, so I'm a little bit biased in that regard. I don't think there was much in here. But, I mean, you know what I'm talking about. If you've heard this album in particular, you know how weird it is and how odd it is. I mean, you know, you can definitely hear influence from other bands, but they definitely go out of their way to be unique and different. So there's not really much in the book to look at whatsoever. I don't know why I bothered to pull it out, but there it is. So yeah, I mean, what can you say? This is just one of those things that I remember specifically where I was when I first heard this album. And it's stuck with me ever since, and I finally have it. So, which is lame that I'm just now getting it fucking 17 years after I first heard it, but whatevs, man. So that's it for this one. The whole classic album, or whatever I'm going to end up calling it. I don't even know what the name is yet. So I really appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully I can keep this series going for a little while. I will have the next version of that here in a couple weeks. I've got a tape update to do soon. Some other updates to sprinkle in. And eventually here in the next few weeks, maybe a little longer, we'll get to our vinyl collection, all that other bullshit. So I'm going to quit rambling. Please, 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 even if you hate my guts, fuck me, I don't matter. Go subscribe to Eli and Pat, because they're some of the most amazing people I've ever met. Some of my best friends that I've met through YouTube and internet shit. So it would really mean a lot to me if you go take care of those guys, because they're great fucking people, and they do this way fucking better than I do. So I really appreciate you guys checking this out. I will see you fucking next time. Thank you.